All right, welcome to WKNC. In today's episode of Connecting to Pack, I am joined by Menna El Sayed. Menna is a student at NC State University. She is from Egypt, and she spent some time abroad outside of the US in the UK. And today we're going to explore her journey in the UK and her journey in the US and the lessons that she learned throughout her travels. So, Menna, it's a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, yeah, that's awesome. So, one of the things that I'd love to talk to you about today is the idea of moving out of Egypt at a
Mm.
very early age. I understand that you were 15 when you moved out,
Yeah.
right? So, what, many questions I have about this, but first, why did you move out at 15, and what was that like for you to just leave your home country and spend some time in a foreign country in the West?
Yeah. It's I think it's a critical question to why I'm here today, I believe. So I felt like at the age of 15 I was my high school year, and I just felt that there's more out there that I can discover, more than my school curriculum, more than what I can reach. I came from a very small town in Egypt, so I didn't even live in the capital where usually most resources are to do anything and discover anything. And since a young age, I really have developed love for cultures and languages, and I just wanted to explore that more. And so from there, I started looking for better opportunities, like
Wow.
educational opportunities. I started like applying for scholarships. One of them was like 1 year exchange here in the U.S., but like do some logistics, it didn't work. And then I came across the chance to apply for the UWC, which stands for United World Colleges. um, and I would say this is from there the reason why it changed my life, because it was this amazing idea to live in a boarding school in a country that could be out of 17 countries all across Europe, Asia, in Africa, in the US, in Canada, in Costa Rica. Like there, you could be like, I didn't know where I would end up, and just the whole idea was very thrilling. And also to study a curriculum like the International Baccalaureate is something that is not limiting, and something unlike my curriculum back in my country, that I could choose. I could choose which topics and which subjects I want to focus on. And I just like that power of learning, because I came from a culture where you learn to get a certificate, or you don't really learn, but you go through school to get a certificate. So
That's
um,
funny.
I wanted to learn something, and I wanted to learn it not for grading, not for anything, it's just because I was always interested and I didn't want to do it like a side thing. So I guess I started that from an earlier age by learning Korean by myself.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow.
I felt this story is very like funny, because I started watching Korean dramas like on the TV when they're dubbed, and then I was like, I wanna know more. I wanna hear the episode faster. I don't want to wait for it. So let me look it up, and then I look it up, and I hear it with subtitles. I'm like, oh, this language sounds beautiful. I wanna know more, and then I watch more and more, and then I repeat after them, and I come some point I'm like 11 or 12, and I'm like, oh, I can actually understand what they're saying without. Let me try to learn the
It's
language, like
crazy.
the writing. So it just kept going by a bunch of coincidence until I was 14. I went to my family. I was like, I need to learn more. I want to go to Cairo. So at the age of 14, I would skip school for 2 days and travel to Cairo the same day and come back to go to the Korean embassy to learn Korean
Wow.
um, for like a whole year, because I did like a placement test and I came at level 4 out of level 6. So, and then from there, I went to the UK.
And
But
what is level 4 here? Is that like something significant or?
yeah, so in the Korean embassy and the skills of learning Korean, you can take like the IELTS or the TOEFL for English. There's one that's called Topic.
Yeah.
So level 4 kind of is it advanced intermediate. I
Wow.
I finished there like level 5 and half of level 6. So that's kind of getting at the first spectrum of fluency if you take the topic test, and it's like a credential thing to do. So so yeah, I think I just it was very abnormal for my peers at school to find like someone skipping school for 2 days to go like travel by themselves and
Oh, I bet.
and it was tiring. It really was, but I was just happy that I'm doing something I'm really passionate about. And I would remind this myself every day. I'm dozing off and like in the bus going back to my city at 11 p.m. after a long day, but it was
Wow.
rewarding.
This is okay. So a lot of things here I would love to explore with you. So there's the Korean language,
Hmm.
learning the Korean, and the idea of having a plethora of options when you were applying for an exchange year. Was an exchange year? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you chose the UK. So if you okay, so you've learned the Korean or advanced level Korean when you were 14. Let me I'd be interested to know why you didn't choose to go to South Korea when you were 15, right? Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, coming from where I come from, the practicality of the scholarships and the funding is what leads you everywhere.
All right,
I
right.
guess I looked up a lot of like opportunities in Korea. It all seemed to be like an undergrad opportunities or mostly grad opportunities, and I was just like in my first year of high school, so
Right.
I had no other option, and also the exchange year was the one to the US, which the one I didn't end up going to. Uh, but the 2 years program that I've done, which is the International Baccalaureate in UWC, this is what I ended up um, going to. And the funny story here that you don't know which country you're going, and they choose for you, and then they'd be like, "Hello, you got accepted, and you're going to this country. Prepare yourself."
Whoa.
But then the funny thing is to apply for this scholarship, it's from 16 to 18 years old. I
Huh.
applied at 15.
Wow, how did that work?
So after they called me and like you got accepted and everything, and like the selection process is very extensive. You first send the written application, and then you do activities day where you meet other candidates and you play games to like kind of talk about your personality a little bit, and then after you selected from this one, actually sorry, before this one you do like an IQ test before the activities day, and
Wow.
then the activities day, and then an interview that's like six people interviewing you at the same time. So after
Wow.
going through all that and they tell me accepted, I'm like, oh, but did you realize I'm 15 years old? They'd be like, oh, okay, we need to check about that. And they just leave me for 2 weeks and like they never get back. And when
Wow.
I ask again, they were like, yeah, yeah, we checked, you're fine, you can go. I'm like, no one told me.
This is just crazy. So, you were 15 at the time. I mean, how did they wasn't there supposed to be like I guess when you're under 18, you have to have like some legal guardian, right? To
Yeah,
Yeah, like wasn't there like you can't even sign documents, I think, when you're
yeah.
15. How did they work around these different variables here?
I mean, like in terms of applying,
Yeah, and in terms of like going to the like who's supervising these underaged individuals?
to travel there. So, like in
Right.
terms of applying, you just your parents have to sign one form that they agree for you to apply, and then not like in the future process, you don't need to do any kind of signature.
Mhm.
But in terms of traveling, yeah, like every visa, every visa document I needed. They needed to sign some stuff, and apparently they needed to come to my visa appointment, which they didn't because I've been traveling by myself. So why would they come? And had to convince the the immigration officer, like it's fine, I can do it.
Okay.
But
Wow.
yeah, but like in the school itself, it was like a boarding school, and in the house, you kind of had a house parent that supervised everyone.
Oh,
And then you also had a tutor like to supervise you academically. And in my school, which is not the case in all schools, but we had something called check-in, which is like at 10 p.m. you have to come home and you get checked in, and the house gets locked. So it was a very like a safe process. That's why
yeah.
some schools mind having like people below 16. My school didn't because it already knew it has the measures in place that would supervise any age basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's explore together the early days of going to the UK
Hmm.
and being exposed to an entirely different culture. Um, what was it like for you to to be surrounded by, I guess, an international community and British people? Was it easy to make friends? Was it hard? What was that like?
I must tell you, I was so excited. Like I remember, like I felt bad because like leaving home and saying goodbye to my family. I feel like I was more excited than I should look like when I'm saying goodbye to my family. But
Right.
I've only traveled abroad once, and it was to Saudi Arabia just because my dad worked there.
Hmm.
So it was like my first time to go to the West, to
Wow.
like, and for me and the UK. I mean, I've always been a kind of person who's fascinated by more Eastern cultures. Like, I was really interested in India and Korea, like in all these cultures. But I
Yeah.
was like, okay, the UK looks very impressive. I want to know what is this all about, and just the fact that I'm gonna go to a school like that. I came from an education back home that I went to public all girls schools in Arabic. So it's
Interesting.
and in a small town. So it's as local and as mainstream kind of education. Like it
Okay.
wasn't like private schools or English schools. So it was very kind of exciting thing for me. So I remember like almost missing my connecting flights and people calling my name. But I was like, I'm thinking that the excitement, like I'm gonna make it. And then I arrived there, I find the school staff waiting for me, and they asking me which house, and I'm trying to speak to every person, try to get to know where they're from,
Oh my.
like trying to see people from countries I've been interested in and talk with them, like. So it was full of excitement. And once I arrived to school, I think that was my first culture shock. Um, that like it was a mixed housing, like boys and girls lived in the same house,
Yeah.
and it's not something that I'm really used to seeing back home. And it's not something that I had a problem with, but more like I was observing a lot what's going on. Like, and our second years were people who have been living there together for like second year now. So they're very used to each other. They're like their interactions and everything. So I was like, oh wow, they do this. Oh wow, this is interesting. Like it took a lot of observations, and I was like very surprised. But I don't think it got me to feel any negativity because I was very comfortable with myself.
Hmm.
I was very comfortable for what I did and what I stood for and how I conducted myself. So I was like, oh, they're doing this. I'm happy for them. I'm
Wow.
also happy for myself.
Okay.
So so yeah,
Wow.
I was very excited. That's what I would describe the whole time period.
This is okay. Now this is fascinating. I mean, even since the start of our conversation, we didn't even talk about how you managed to learn English because we focused on Korean, and you said, and you even said like you were in an all Arabic school, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was that like? How'd you even learn how to speak English?
I mean, I don't know. I just I guess I picked up language easily when I was young. I would watch a lot of shows, a lot of
Hmm.
American movies. I was obsessed with those I feel like I had early teenagehood in my childhood, but I was obsessed with all like those makeup tutorial videos and like room tours and all of that. That's how I picked up an American accent very earlier on.
Okay, okay.
But that's like the part of my past I'm not proud of.
You're
um,
fine.
but yeah, that's how I learned English basically. Like English at school was not something that is taught very strongly. We were taught English speaking Arabic, like using Arabic, so it's
Hmm.
not something that was very strong. But I watched a lot of shows, and that's how I picked up English.
Okay, wow. That's honestly quite remarkable. Like you were
Thank you.
juggling between three different languages, and no, I mean, your English is really it's amazing. And I was like,
Thank you.
this, I didn't even expect that you knew how to speak Korean. So that's a interesting fact. So tell me about the memorable or a few of the memorable experiences about your time in the UK. I'm sure there have been many, right?
Yeah,
Because the excitement was through the roof. I think
yeah.
every single moment, I guess, was something that was memorable for you. But maybe we can narrow it down to a few, right?
No, I mean, to say the least, it was really a roller coaster. Because it's it's basically taking someone out of everything they're familiar with. When you're back at your home with your friends in school, like in back home, you've been there for a while. You know the norms, you know everything. But imagine you're thrown in an international school where every person has their own way of communication, their own kind of background of what friendship is,
Mhm.
and put that aside, the IB, the International Baccalaureate, like it was a jump from learning Egyptian curriculum in Arabic to learning the International Baccalaureate. Like I
Yeah.
was taking subjects like in anthropology, higher level world religions,
Huh.
design technology, and and I was taking Arabic self-taught, which was very interesting because we're studying Arabic literature, which is something I haven't studied like back home, and
Wow.
of course English. And I remember, I think one of the critical time was trying to read those readings for anthropology and world religions, and I'm like, I'm struggling. I maybe know how to converse with people, but I don't know how to read an academic paper or
Mhm.
give aside write one, you know, and um I remember struggling with that a lot, and but I felt like there's no way to get out of it, and like except just sitting down, like putting every word into a translator and memorizing it and going from like the basics.
Wow.
So to read one page, I'll take 2 hours at least to kind of comprehend, and it was a constant process of feedback with like teachers and all of that. But that one I felt really challenged, and I felt like all my education before had failed me miserably.
Oh no, that's sad.
but I survived it, I would say. You know, and then next, I feel like the part that really got me through as well is the people that I met.
Mhm.
I feel like I have been the happiest socially and with my friend group in these 2 years because you found there it was a quite diverse school, not just in terms of like where people come from, not just in terms of race, it's also in terms of thinking, in terms of ideas, in terms of different things. So you found people who like my best friend, she was from Bangladesh and she had lived 10 years of her life in Egypt
Oh
and she
wow.
speaks Korean. So,
Okay. Now
like,
this is funny. This is fascinating.
I know.
Oh my.
And we met by chance. Like, I was friends with her roommate, and then one day we met. She was like introducing me. Oh, and this is also my other roommate. If you want to meet her,
Wow.
so
This
yeah,
is wow, the diversity must have been off the charts,
yeah,
at school. You said it was a boarding school, so that means I guess, it was easy to have communications with people coming from different parts of the
yeah,
world, right?
yeah.
Wow. Toward the end of your time in the UK, did you do certain things that you would think were like you were like, oh, I mean, now I'm leaving, I have to do this before I leave, or like did you prioritize during certain things that you think are maybe hilarious, maybe
Yeah.
memorable? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a quite a risk taker. I have found, but maybe at these years I was more of a risk taker. So
Hmm.
one of the things that was not allowed to do in the school is to do something which called night ride. Let me
Night
explain.
ride.
So remember how I explained there is a check-in process where you get locked in your house at 10:15.
Yeah, it's like curfew.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
And it was very strict that like even our windows had restrictors, so you cannot open them for like more than 5 centimeters or something just to get some
Oh
air in.
wow.
So it's something that people would do like a lot in the years, and I felt like I have to do it just for the fun of it. Is people cut these window restrictors? Like not me personally, but like there's a one window that we all know that this restrictor cut, and then after the curfew, a certain time, you jump out and you try to sneak into someone else's house. But the school is very big. It's like it's on a cliff, and you have the Bristol Channel next to you, and it's like there's fields with sheep, farms around you, and it's
Oh,
very
what
like
a
vast.
sight to behold.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that there are night boarders,
Uh huh.
which are people who are their job is to walk around the school and try to catch those students who are night riding.
Oh boy.
so so the whole thing was about like trying to hide before like like I crawled on the ground like way up, and then you hide after a tree, and then you hide on the grass when you see them coming, and like it's and then I went to my second year's house and like jumped in from a window. It was like a whole like kind of a movie action type of
This
thing.
is
And I just
crazy.
went there and I slept in my friend's bed. I did nothing, but I just wanted to do it
Wow.
for the fun of it.
It's like some sort of covert op,
Yeah.
like it's like a mission.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, this is funny. Wow. And I mean, I that is risk taking at its finest. Oh my. So okay, so you get back. So you finish your year and you go back to Egypt.
hmm It,
What was it like to? Sorry, you were gonna say
no, it
something
was
about
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have. I would say that you might have developed a very strong connection, I
Yeah.
guess, to
Yeah.
living there and to the friends and all of
Yeah.
acquaintances. Wow, this is incredible. So 2 years, and then you go back to Egypt for a year, or what happens next?
No, I just go back to Egypt in summer and then I come here in the US for undergrad.
Wow, so you went for just the summer after
Uh-huh.
spending 2 years abroad,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to the U.S.
Mm.
Was it all planned out, or how did that work?
So my school has this donor. His name is Shelby Davis, basically, who has this program. Whoever graduates from a UWC school
Mhm.
in the 17 countries, he would donate $20,000 for their undergrad tuition
Wow,
with
very
some,
generous.
yeah, and partner universities, and partner universities, like they're very, it's a big list. And
Mhm.
also many of the universities, especially my university that I went to, they double that, and they also cover housing as well, so it's kind of a full scholarship kind of thing.
This is incredible.
So
Wow.
everyone in UWC knows that, like, they're mainly applying for the US because we all know that we're guaranteed $20,000 just the moment we apply for any university to get in.
This okay. So you and do you what universities did you say you applied to, or were you restricted?
No, I
And
mean, you're restricted to 10 just because to be able to do it, because you know how
right.
university applications are. Um, but yeah, I applied for, I think my top choice was Minerva.
Minerva.
Yeah,
Was
because,
that the one that takes you abroad to
yeah,
different countries?
yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I was not like ready with leaving like the whole international life. I wanted to kind of jump across.
Uh-huh.
Like while in undergrad, I went to Turkey and I went to China and I went to Czech Republic, and I just liked the whole life of traveling. But I'm also kind of glad I didn't get into Minerva because I met people in Korea who were in Minerva, and just the idea that every semester for 4 years you're in a different place seemed like, I think at that age seemed a bit disorienting. I wanted to have a
Oh,
place and a community and just, be rooted down somewhere to kind of get the best.
yeah.
But yeah, I applied for maybe 9 universities, Minerva being my top choice, and then I get accepted in University of Oklahoma, where I eventually went.
Uh-huh.
And I was waitlisted in Rochester, which is a place I really wanted to go to. But turns out if I had got in, I would have needed to pay some of money, which I would have not been able to pay. So Oklahoma really was the best choice, for two reasons. First, being the financial aid. They have an amazing financial package. They go above and beyond, not just in tuition and housing, but also you give like 10,000, like you give, sorry, $1,000 every semester for like to buy school books and stationaries and a
Ooh.
bag every year and all of that. Like,
Okay.
and then you have a whole office that's dedicated to you, that they do the admission. So they only look at UWC applications, and then they're there throughout the 4 years to help you with anything you need.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
This is I guess that's the best choice you could have
Yeah, and then the
went for.
second reason is it had the biggest UWC community. So you have like now an international community, but also pulled from all these 17 colleges around the world. So not just from like we went to the UK, but went to India, went to Italy, like went to East Africa, like in Tanzania, like all people. And
Whoa.
so it was amazing to kind of live with this international community again for 4 years.
This is fascinating, and it's funny how after spending 2 years in the UK, you're still jumping abroad. Like you don't. I don't think you've had like I guess a rest period that was extensive, and I find that admirable, really.
Thank you.
So you moved to the U.S. and how old were you at the time? Was it I would imagine 18, right? First college year.
First semester was 17.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Wow. So, th- what was it like to transition to the U.S.? I mean, that's a
That was
huge
a
move.
difficult transition. I don't know if people in the US realize this, but the US always, for me, it was very different than any place I've been in, like in the whole world.
Yeah.
The culture in the US was very distinct, and the vastness of the US, and also I went to Oklahoma out of all places, which is like mix of South and Midwest, and like Norman was not really the busiest city, I would call it as well. And I think the biggest culture shock that I cannot get over until today, that I need to get on a highway to go to get groceries. I still cannot get over
This is
that.
frustrating, I have to admit.
um, but no, it was a rough semester at the beginning. Though I knew people going there. Like the person who went to my UWC 2 years before, like graduated once I entered, was in Oklahoma. So and he's Egyptian, so I knew him.
Okay.
I had also another like person that I was accepted with me in UWC, and she came with me as well to Oklahoma. And beside, like there was a big community, but it was kind of difficult to get over the first culture shock here in the US, I think, in the first semester.
Yeah. No, I would imagine it would be because even like college in general, I mean, college is an entirely different environment,
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge transition from, high school.
Yeah.
Even though you had an international experience, it was still kind of tricky, but I'm glad you were able to conquer all these challenges and spend how many years? 4 years in Oklahoma?
4 years. I mean, I did semester abroad in Korea, but yeah, overall, so 4 years.
Wow. And maybe here we can talk about some of the, I guess the key takeaways from your experience in Oklahoma, right? Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
memorable experiences. I wouldn't
Yeah.
imagine there would have been like an undercover
And
operation in the
now
middle of the night, right?
there was no curfew, thankfully.
Okay, good.
I don't know. I feel like it was how to conduct a community, but more in a bigger scale, and not just like a fun hangouts, but also a support community. And we had I've been the president of the Arab Student Association. I've been the event chair of the Arab Student Association. I've been the event chair for the International Student Advisory, which is a place where all international students and associations kind of like umbrella under. So it was like a big um always a big organization. And also I worked with the international like services office, like immigration, in the university for 2 of my years.
Wow.
So it was more of a professional setting, how to create ties and cooperation and spaces for international students. And like it made me really passionate about international students voice, like
Hmm.
the theme of your podcast, but also um, how such places really aid into their success and act like a support spaces. And especially with events happening in the world, you know that you always have this community to lay like back on, and they support you. I think that was the main thing, and this is something I always be thankful for. Like everyone I worked with in Oklahoma to kind of install in me this whole idea of wanting to belong to a community that will be there despite their, or maybe because of their diversity. You might not know about this cause or reason before, but now you have heard someone in your community who's doing this, and you want to do an event to talk to people about it. You want to do a fundraiser, you want to showcase your culture, and through that you want to speak about what you, and we had all kinds of interactions and events in that. And I think that what made Oklahoma really a comfort space, and I still go there, and I'm going there soon.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, wow. So
yeah,
you are still very much connected
yeah.
to Oklahoma.
Hmm.
Wow, that's incredible. I like that you built that sort of international community, try to amplify their voices. I think it is essential. We should definitely celebrate the diversity that we have.
Hmm.
Um, so now that you've transitioned to a master's program, how is that? Was that a big move? Was that a big transition? Or how would you describe it?
It was a big move. Well, first, after I graduated, I applied for actually PhD programs in anthropology, because that's what
Really?
yeah what I'm mainly interested in. But I feel like just to I didn't have the essential foundation to start a PhD program.
Mhm.
especially coming from an international studies background. So it was
Okay.
kind of difficult to get into any of these programs. And then I applied for masters in Oklahoma and also in NC State. But what happened is that I got a job and I decided to work for a year to just discover what is working life is all about.
Mhm.
And also, the job was to help, it was an international education and help international students coming on exchange programs and different kinds of programs into the US.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and there was a remote job, so I could have been anywhere. So I felt like it's ideal. It's everything I care about. It's also trying a new kind of lifestyle. It's a good pay, and also being remote that kind of gives me a lot of flexibility. And then when I deferred both of my programs, like to for after this year, and it was an amazing experience, I would say. Though I moved to North Carolina then during this whole year, and it was kind of difficult to start a remote job while moving to a new place. But
Right. Okay.
the
Mhm.
reason why I really moved to North Carolina, and also a big reason of why I chose NC State, because I felt that as much as I am really happy with my experience in Oklahoma, I wanted to be in a bigger space, and I wanted to be in a bigger, more dynamic city than I was in Oklahoma, and I felt that was very limiting to discover new opportunities and meet new people and being close to major cities like DC or New York.
Mhm.
And in Oklahoma, I felt I'm kind of far from that, and I wanted to experience that. I wanted to be able to go to New York, attend an event for a weekend, or do the same thing in DC, or even Raleigh and Durham and Chapel Hill. They're quite dynamic cities that have like really amazing universities that really allows a lot of opportunities, and that's why I was ready to move to a new place and transition to masters.
Yeah. Well, I'm I'm really glad you made that decision. I think it's
Thank
it's
you.
the right move. And no, I really I find your story quite remarkable, Menna. And I think 30 minutes is not enough to have a conversation with you. But
Thank you.
since we're wrapping things up, would you like to add anything else before we close off?
That's that's the hardest question out of them all. No, I think I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really thankful that your podcast is doing something that I deeply care about, which is amplifying like international students' voices,
Mhm.
because it's important to not only be seen as international students, it's important to be seen as a human being with a story, with a background, with hopes and feelings and families and ambitions. And I think that's what's amazing in being here, and
Mhm.
sharing these stories together.
I find that thank you for saying that. I totally agree, and that's exactly why I decided to run this entire podcast because I really want to hear these unique stories, just to make people understand that diversity goes a long way.
Mhm.
Um, so thank you so much for joining me, man. I'm glad
Thank
we
you for
had this
having me.
conversation.
Thank you.